Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. I recently completed a live stream of Mask of the Betrayer, which is an expansion of Neverwinter Nights 2 Enhanced Edition. I did a review of Neverwinter Nights 2, but I feel like there was a lot to talk about in regards to Mask of the Betrayer, so I wanted to do a separate video regarding this part of the game. I do have a couple more videos of Neverwinter Nights 2 content planned, so if that interests you, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and like this video if you end up enjoying the content. I don't want to waste any more time, so let's get right into this review of Mask of the Betrayer, starting with what I like. First and foremost, let me just save all of you some time. Without question, this expansion is the best part of Neverwinter Nights 2. Of course, I played through the entirety of the base game, and I haven't played one other expansion, but there's just no doubt in my mind, this is the creme de la creme. It was absolutely an incredible experience going through this, and it's great right from the beginning when you import your character. Of course, in my Neverwinter Nights 2 review, I made it clear that character creation is a big draw of that game. Massive list of races, massive list of classes and feats and spells that you can use in order to nail down the exact type of play style that you want. Well, Mask of the Betrayer gives you all of that, but it also allows you to start at level 18, or if you import your character from the base game, you might even start at level 20. So not only do you have all of those amazing mechanics, but you will have the majority of them right up front. And the expansion is going to allow you to go all the way up to level 30, giving you access to epic feats and spells along the way. Just all the way around. From a mechanic standpoint, this is a really cool experience, and it's paired with an amazing story as well. So you start out as someone who wakes up all by themselves with no idea of what's going on, but it's pretty obvious you have been taken and something terrible has happened to you. Very quickly, a character named Sophia helps you to try to piece together your memory and what has occurred, and you find out that you have been infected with a spirit of hunger, and essentially you have to devour other spirits, or you're going to continually get debuffs that will lower your level and do other nasty things to you, and eventually, if you go long enough without devouring spirits, it will kill you. This mechanic and the story does an incredible job of really giving you a sense of desperation and loneliness and feeling like terrible things are happening to you that you have to figure out. I really enjoy the journey, and the writing is just absolutely superb throughout. Even outside of just the story, another way in which the writing shines is the world building. So a lot of this game is based in Rashomon, which will be very familiar to those of you who have played the Baldur's Gate series. It's where Minx comes from, and so it's been really cool to see more of the culture and lore surrounding that area. But Mask of the Betrayer does a fantastic job of truly establishing an epic scale in everything that you do. So even beyond hearing about Rashomon, you're going to learn about all sorts of different planes, and there's a huge focus on deities and how they impact the world and the people around you. Everything just feels like you're operating at a much more epic scale than you ever were in Neverwinter Nights 2, or frankly even the Baldur's Gate games. Just really cool stuff, and does even more to make the world feel fleshed out and make it seem like you're only in a small part of it. I mentioned before that this is something that the base game does a great job of as well, but I feel like Mask of the Betrayer takes it to an entirely different level and makes me even more excited. Despite shenanigans from Wizards of the Coast, I'm still even more excited for more games within the D&D universe. Mask of the Betrayer just really hammers home how incredible the lore is behind that property, and that there's so many more worlds and stories to be explored. Another way that I believe the expansion greatly improves upon the main game is the companions. This is an absolutely fantastic group that I really enjoy playing the entire game with. First and foremost, all of them have great voice acting. All of them are very enjoyable to listen to. All of them have really interesting backgrounds, and it's a joy to discover more of those details as the game goes along. You get your full team relatively early, so there's enough room for their stories to breathe and for you to get to know them on a much deeper level than you knew some of the companions from the base game. I really like the improvements that were made to the companion influence system as well. It is not easy to gain influence with companions. In fact, one of them I actually failed to max out, but at the same time, it's very easy to see how much influence you have with a particular character. So you're not left wondering the way I definitely did during my base game playthrough. Also, I really like that there's actual in-game reactivity for you maxing out influence with a particular character. Each one has a buff that they can give to you that makes it clear your relationship has reached another level. Really cool stuff. I feel like they put much more effort into the companions here than they did in the base game. So walking through them, the first one I want to talk about is Ganiev of Dreams. I love his hag spawn background. It makes the conversations about his history so interesting. I've never even thought about having a hag or anyone associated with a hag as a companion. And of course, you don't have to play the game to know his upbringing was very difficult, which makes the stories about what he's been through even more interesting. Ganiev is also a lot of times the only party member who can enter dreams with you. And there are a lot of different sections in the game where you enter someone's dreams, and so it's only you and him, and it kind of makes it feel like you all have a special relationship. Even as a male who cannot romance him, it just felt like there are things that I went through where only he was able to help me, and it was a really cool experience. I've only done a playthrough as a man, so I haven't seen any of his romance content, but I could just already tell from the conversations that I've had with him, it's probably an absolute blast. He's really sarcastic, got a great sense of humor. Again, it's very entertaining talking to him, and so there's no doubt in my mind that the romances with him are probably a lot of fun to go through as well. I also really enjoy Sophia. She is the first party member that you meet, and she is a red wizard of Thay. Of course, I've played Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, so I'm very familiar with the red wizards. I love the idea of having one as a companion again, and yet at the same time, she is completely different from any red wizard that I've met before. And so it makes the conversations with her very intriguing. In an interesting twist, she is highly focused on crafting. And usually in these types of RPGs, the character you get who's focused on crafting is also terrible in combat, but she's actually sick in combat and can absolutely devastate enemies if you build her up properly. So I never regretted having her in the party, and her crafting abilities were really cool. We'll talk more about crafting in a bit. She, of course, was the character that I ended up romancing. It was decent. It kind of suffers from the same issue as Neverwinter Nights 2, where the romance is kind of just tacked on at the very end of your playthrough. So it almost kind of feels like y'all could have just gone on ahead and left it out, but it does play into some of your ending slides. So I won't say it's quite as bad. And again, she's a character I enjoy talking with, so it wasn't bad being able to romance her. Next up is Oku. Now, he is a god, actually, an animal god that will join your party because he desperately wants to stop the spirit hunger that you have been infected with. I love his character model. All of those different colors matching with the fur. I think it just looks absolutely beautiful and fantastic. And more than the other two characters that I've went over, he feels truly epic. He feels like a 20+ level companion that you never would have been able to recruit in the base game. But in this epic game where you're facing some of these epic, incredible enemies, having him as a companion makes complete sense. He's got an incredible deep voice that I always love listening to. and he has sacrificed everything to stop the spirit. And so hearing the backstory of some of the things that he's done and some of the pain he's had to endure in order to hopefully get to the point that this mystery can be solved, really, really cool. I enjoyed Oku so much as a companion. But without question, the companion that had the biggest impact on me is Kaylin the Dove. I loved her, and she definitely ranks now as one of my favorite all-time party members. If there's ever a better job done of providing the fan base with an enhanced edition of Neverwinter Nights 2, and they decide to make some changes to Mask of the Betrayer, I would love for her to be romanceable. I know that's something that Obsidian had originally planned to do and then decided not to do. If that ever happens, it would convince me absolutely to play Master of the Betrayer again. Heck, I might go through the whole game, the base game and Master of the Betrayer all again. She was just incredible. First and foremost, her character model is fantastic. From the wings to the gray skin, that half celestial look, similar to Oku, she comes off as a truly epic character that you would not even be able to recruit if you were below level 20. But again, she fits right in with everything that you're dealing with in the game. In combat, she's amazing, has just incredible combat mechanics, always useful on the field. And I really latched on to her personal quest. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to talk about that a little bit more when I get to the things I don't like regarding the game. But as a good aligned character, I felt like her personal struggle and what she was trying to do aligned the most with who I was as a character and what I wanted to see happen in the game. And so it really felt like out of everybody in the group, me and her were the ones who were most aligned and wanted to do the exact same thing. There is one other optional companion that I never saw. From everything I've heard, that character is just as good as the ones that I've outlined, but you would have to be evil aligned in order to see them. So I never got to see any of that content. But all the way around, this group of companions feels deeper than what we got in the base game, much more fleshed out, and it was just an awesome time being able to journey with them. Now, I briefly mentioned the crafting system, and I think that's another area where this game is definitely improved. In the base game, it had fully fleshed out crafting, but you had to find a bunch of special items in order to be able to craft things, and so there would be 3 or 4 or 5 different things you had to put together. In Mask of the Betrayer, it is much more streamlined, where you just need to get the mold and perhaps some iron or some wood to create a particular object, and then you'll be able to enchant that object using the essences that you'll pick up from enemies that you defeat. So essentially, how much you're able to craft is going to be directly aligned with how much fighting that you do, and you can get really crazy crafting wild items that are way beyond what you'll be able to loot in the field. I went kind of deep into it to the point that when I was kitting out my characters right before the final battle, a couple of people chimed in and was like, dude, you're overdoing it. At this point, you have everything you need to wipe the floor with everything in the end game. But I still had a great time with the crafting system, and I felt really good about my overall team by the time we entered that final battle. So it was just great, consistently killing things throughout the game and using the essences to just get better and better weapons and gear. Another thing that I really like about Mask of the Betrayer is that it feels like there's a really satisfying evil run available to you. The spirit hunger mechanics work differently if you're using an evil character. If you're devouring spirits left and right, you're going to get additional powers and mechanics that were not available to me in a good aligned run. There's a lot of reactivity amongst the companions if they believe you're just giving in to the hunger of that spirit, or you're doing things that are essentially actually making the world worse. And there are unique ending slides. In fact, there's a ending that's unique all the way around based on how evil you have been throughout the game. So it appears there's a lot of replayability in Master of the Betrayer. In fact, during my live stream, there are a lot of people who are saying you really need to do an evil run of this expansion so that you can truly see how amazing a lot of the stuff that they put into it actually is. And speaking of the ending, I do have my issues with it, and we are going to talk about that in the dislike section, but I will say it's way better than what we got in Neverwinter Nights 2. There's lots of content. It really takes into account a lot of the decisions that you made, and so it felt like a culmination of everything that I had done in the expansion, and I really appreciated that. Again, I felt like it should have been stronger in some ways, and we'll talk about that, but on the whole, I think they did a really good job. Another thing I appreciated about this expansion, it does not feel like there was a ton of cut content. So I mentioned before in my review of the base game that everywhere you go, it just feels like Obsidian had to cut corners, and they had to pull out things or not do things that they really wanted to do but never got a chance to do. And so the game just all the way around feels incomplete. And of course, that reinforced that feeling of it not being enhanced, because a lot of people were saying, why wasn't any of this addressed in the enhanced edition? You don't feel that nearly as much in Mask of the Betrayer. It really feels like, for the most part, Obsidian got to do exactly what they wanted to do. This was probably much better planned than what they were able to do for Neverwinter Nights 2. And so they had an idea of, okay, this is the bandwidth we have, this is how much money we have to work with, and so everything we do has to fit in there, and it just feels like a very complete and satisfying experience. In fact, there's a pretty popular video series out right now that walks through a ton of the cut content for Neverwinter Nights 2, and the section that's specifically about Master of the Betrayer, I feel like I looked at it, it was only like a few minutes. Like, it was a very small portion that you could say, hey, they wanted to do this but weren't able to. For the most part, it's a very clean playthrough. And then the last thing I want to bring up, since again playing through this made me think about other games, playing through Mask of the Betrayer really makes me want to replay Baldur's Gate 3 again. I feel like so much in this game, and obviously in the base game of Neverwinter Nights 2 as well, makes me feel more informed about the D&D universe. And I kind of walked into Baldur's Gate 3 not feeling that way. I had played the first two games years and years ago, didn't really remember them, and so I was coming in fresh, not really being able to make connections when I played Baldur's Gate 3. But walking through Neverwinter Nights 2 Master of the Betrayer, there were so many things in there where I was like, hey, there's a callback to this in Baldur's Gate 3, or they talked about this in Baldur's Gate 3, and I find that to be so cool. I feel like going through this experience of playing through the base game and Master of the Betrayer is going to make all D&D games more enjoyable for me, and that again speaks to how great a job they did with the world building and really fleshing out that lore and that universe and making it real for the player and something that they would want to see more of. That wraps up everything about the game that I liked. So before I move on, I want to remind you, if you've been enjoying this video, I'd really appreciate you hitting the like button. If you're still here, that probably means you're enjoying the content. If you subscribe, you're going to get more content just like that. Let's go ahead and move into the aspect of the game that I'm neutral on, the spirit hunger mechanics. So in the base game of Neverwinter Nights 2, it was way too easy to rest. You could pretty much do it constantly, and it made a lot of parts of that game trivial. So to solve that for Mask of the Betrayer, they included this spirit mechanic where if you rested, it was going to actually take up time, and during that time your spirit mechanic meter would go down because you went too long without devouring spirits. And as it went down further and further, you would have more and more debuffs placed on your character until if it got too low, you could actually just flat out die. In the beginning of the game, this is brutal to to deal with, because the mechanic that allows you to raise a spirit bar can only be used once a day. And so you could use it and it'll get you to, like, 70 or 80%, and then you would rest and it would go back down to like 60, and then you go around exploring and doing things, and the bar is just steadily going down with no way for you to raise it back up. It felt very frustrating. It felt like you were being punished for exploring and just playing the game. And honestly, it just didn't feel good, to the point that I remarked multiple times I kind of wish that they had taken it out. And there were other people who definitely agreed with me. By the time I got to mid game, that had pretty much turned around. So playing as a good aligned person, I focused on suppressing my hunger and not giving into it. And so consequently, the rate at which I would hunger for spirits slowed down significantly, so I didn't need to devour spirits nearly as often. Now, if you do an evil playthrough, I guess it's kind of the exact opposite, where you get more opportunities to devour spirits, and consequently, you'll be able to keep your bar topped off that way. But regardless, by mid-game, the spirit hunger mechanic became much more manageable, and it develops a lot more as you go on. So you're going to get more powers and abilities, and mechanics are going to stack on top of it that intertwined with the main story, and it all the way around made the mechanic much more enjoyable, to the point that by the time I got to the end of the game, I actually liked it and I was having a good time with it, and I felt like it was kind of integral to who I am. But it took too long to get there. I definitely feel like, again, if there's another enhanced edition version of this game, the spirit hunger mechanic needs to be tinkered with just a little bit. That beginning part shouldn't be quite as impactful on the player, to give a little better lead up to that time when you'll be able to manage it much easier. And so for that reason, I put this in the neutral section. Even though it was really, really tough in the beginning, by mid game, it was much easier to deal with. And by the end, I was like, okay, this makes sense. This should be here. And I feel like it was all worth it by the end. And believe it or not, that's everything that I'm neutral on when it comes to this game. So we have finally gotten to the portion of the game that I dislike. I want to remind you that in the membership section, I am doing reaction content that I almost never do on the channel. But in the members section, you all have the opportunity to send me links for things that you would like for me to see and react to, and I'm happy to do it. So if that interests you, definitely make sure you sign up as a member here on YouTube, or go ahead and sign up on my Patreon. Now let's get into the things that I don't like regarding Master of the Betrayer. And first up, let's give a little callback to the review I did on Neverwinter Nights 2. This is just going to be quick, but I do want to reiterate, just like that game, the base game did not feel enhanced, Master of the Betrayer does not feel enhanced either. Now, this is much less pronounced here because, again, it feels like Obsidian was able to do everything that they wanted to do. So there's not tons of content littered around, but the same bugs that were in the original version of Master of the Betrayer are still present here. It doesn't feel like anything has really been upgraded or something that I looked at and I was like, oh wow, that must be new. It's pretty much the same thing that you have played before, and I'm sure for many people that would be a big disappointment. All right, outside of that, there are two reasons that I feel like Mask of the Betrayer is overrated, considering the way you all were talking about it. Now, let me be clear up front, both of these reasons are spoilers. I don't feel like there's a good way to talk about them if you haven't already played the expansion. So if you haven't already played the expansion and don't want the story to be spoiled, I'm going to tell you right now, I do not feel like either one of these reasons are bad enough for you to flat out not play it. So if you haven't played Master of the Betrayer and you love great stories, you love great lore, you love great characters, I cannot recommend highly enough, go ahead, check out Mask of the Betrayer. It's something that you're going to want to go ahead and play. For those of you who have already played it or who don't care about spoilers for it, let's go ahead and talk through this, because so many of you on my live streams claimed that playing through Mask of the Betrayer and seeing the ending was going to all of a sudden make me feel better about the ending for Neverwinter Nights 2, and that, hey, I would forget all about that because this kind of wipes that clean and makes everything okay. That's not true at all. not in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So first of all, Mask of the Betrayer has little to no respect for your original companions. You almost never see these people. And a big issue with the ending of Neverwinter Nights 2 is that it basically wipes out all of your companions. It says that, hey, a bunch of rocks fell on them and now they're all done for. The only companion who comes back is Amanjaro. And while I enjoyed Amanjaro immensely in my playthrough, I think most people would concur that Kelgar is the real star of the show and that he's the companion the vast majority of people would want to see back in their party again. Second to him, I really wanted to see Nishka as well. I thoroughly enjoyed all the conversations with her. And again, I feel like there's a sizable portion of the fan base who would agree with me. On top of that, Eleni was your romance if you were playing as a male character. And the fact that she's nowhere to be found and most likely dead, again, does nothing to help me feel better about the ending. But the fact that Kelgar and Nishka basically never show up, never, until you get to the ending, and even then, I think it's only if it's a good aligned ending, just doesn't make any sense to me. Amanjaro has a whole conversation where he walks through every single companion and what probably happened to them. And it basically just reinforces how terrible that ending was. Cassiver, oh yeah, he's probably dead. Oh yeah, well, you know, Bishop's, he's definitely dead. We already know that. Yeah, Sand is probably out of here as well. Cora, yeah, she's probably a goner. Grodner, it seems like he got away maybe, but I'm not sure. Yeah, he's kind of dead. Steve, yeah, I mean, she might have pulled some Gift Yankee magic or whatever the hell she was, but yeah, she's probably dead. You know, they're probably all still dead. This is not making me feel better. This is not making me feel better. On top of that, Amanjaro is a character that you could easily end up not getting, and then even if you get him, he says that he's going to help you at the end of the game. I ended up missing the portion of the game where he was supposed to come help me because there's only one specific sequence at the ending and it is determined by what order in which you do certain tasks. And of course, the game provides no indication whatsoever that, hey, you need to do this thing first if you ever want to see Amanjaro again or if you want to see him in action. There is just no sense in the game whatsoever that your companion are actually important to you or that they're important to the journey. And yeah, I'm not with it. I don't like it. Like, again, I definitely feel like the companions in Master of the Betrayer are done better and that there was more effort and depth put into them, but there were a couple of characters, again, Kelgar, that I had absolutely grown close to and wanted to see again. So being pretty much separated from them permanently, like you can meet Kelgar again if you play through the Storms expansion, but you're not going to play as the character that he actually knows. So like that relationship is gone forever. You're never going to see that content again. Whack. I'm not with it at all. But that, believe it or not, is secondary as far as issues I have with this game. The main issue I have with this game is that it doesn't provide what, in my mind, should be the clear ending for a good aligned character. Now, I know some of y'all are going to disagree with me on this, but I don't really feel like there's a whole lot to argue with when it comes to this, all right? So early on, the game makes it clear that your ultimate goal, what you're trying to do is get to the Wall of the Faithless, and you're trying to free a soul there, which in turn is going to free your soul. That's the whole point, right? That's the end goal you're trying to get to. Now, in addition to this, you meet a party member called Kaylin the Dove. Kaylin the Dove is trying to free all souls from the wall. She feels like the wall is cruel, the wall is wrong, and it needs to be torn down because Merkel never had the right to put it up in the first place, all right? The game asks you on multiple occasions, What motivates you? Why are you doing what you are doing? And on multiple occasions, you have the opportunity to say, I'm in this for my own power, or I just want to save myself, or you can make it clear, I'm here for justice. I'm here to help everyone. I'm here to tear down the wall. I made it clear on multiple occasions, destroying the wall in its entirety was my purpose. It was what I wanted to do. And I felt like the game was clearly coming down to, all right, this is what you're going to do no matter what the cost. Now, at the end of the game, you have a conversation with Kamikaze, who is essentially taken over the role that Merkel used to hold, and consequently, he is the one who is now protecting the wall, for lack of a better way of saying it, and basically ensuring that the wall is going to stay up. Now, he makes it clear he'll allow you to free the soul connected to you that is in the wall. He will not allow you to free all of the souls that are in the wall. The game does not give you the option to tell him, no, I demand that the wall come down, and then to fight him accordingly. The game basically forces you to just take your soul and walk away. Whack. Whack. Super whack. I hate that. I hate that. And let me be absolutely clear, because I talked about this on the live stream when this ending came up, right? And someone made the comment and said, this is millennials. Millennials always want their games to be a power trip, so you're dissatisfied with this because you feel like you should have enough power to, fight Kamikaze, defeat him, and tear down the wall. That's not the problem here. That's not the issue in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I should be able to die attempting to take down the wall. Being able to come to the wall, get the one soul that impacts me, that is related to me, and then walk away as if, all right, I've done a good job. This was my good deed for the day, is whack. That's not good aligned. That's not good aligned at all. I don't feel like there's much to argue about here. And so consequently, the whole good aligned ending feels hollow to me. In fact, while you're in that good aligned ending, there's specifically a slide about Kaylin the Dove, that she is still fighting the good fight. She still is trying everything in her power to tear down the wall, and it's literally destroying her. Her wings are getting blackened and frailing away because she is not a leader. The slide literally says this. She's not the leader that you were, and she can't rally the people to the cause. So she's basically doing it by herself and failing, and it's killing her. Meanwhile, you cavort off with Sophia, get married, reconnect with old party members, basically go partying all across the cosmos. Meanwhile, the cause is still going on, and the person you were previously aligned with to do it is basically destroying herself. So she's bending over backwards to save these people, and meanwhile you're like, hey girl, I see you struggling out there, but man, my apologies, I got all this red wizard punani waiting on me. I can't do anything for you. That is whack. That is absolutely whack. And for me, it kind of tarnished the whole thing. It tarnished the whole thing because, again, the game asks you. It'd be different if I made this up in my head. The game asks you, why are you doing this? Why are you here? And I made it clear on multiple occasions, I am here for the wall. The whole wall, not just my soul, the wall, period. It's got to come down. This is wrong. I think it's whack that I couldn't go down with the ship and tell Kaylin, hey, we're going to do everything in our power to make this happen. And if it can't happen, if we're going to lose, then so be it. The game literally just doesn't allow you to do that. I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong. And that really tainted some of the experience for me personally. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the expansion. Once again, amazing experience. So glad that I went through that. One of the most amazing expansions I've ever experienced. I would really love to see more games do the exact same thing. Take that high level character with all of your weapons and mechanics and things that you've gained, and then put you up against these monsters who are just as incredible and can really stand toe to toe with you. So freaking cool. Amazing writing, amazing character building, amazing world building. Obviously, I had some issues with the ending and about the respect shown to the base game that you had already come through, but that just doesn't change the fact that this is great stuff. And again, if you love great stories, if you love these type of games, Mask of the Betrayer is no question a must play. Once again, if you haven't already, subscribe down below, hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. If you want to support, there are links where you can join as a member on YouTube or join my Patreon for more reaction content. Let me know you all's thoughts down in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.